I think now would be a good time to actually check what types of book we have now. If I haven't already. I'm not sure if I remember. So the only one that's good for leveling right now is tailoring. And a lot of these are just paper, essentially. I don't ever use these for morale boosting. So it would seem that the situation now is we have the longbow and the wooden arrows, and we have a good stock of food and water. Still, skill leveling is going to be a long-term goal. Should probably reload this, and I don't think I'll be using that one. I know it would help think of something, taking a walk. Yes, one thing I would like to do is vehicles. Actually, let's check this one here. So this is a bicycle. It looks like it's functioning. Just a test. The bicycle's engine fails to start. Ah yes, it is functioning correctly. So this should allow travel between towns and other points of interest. I don't think it's a good idea to use it in town, though. So nearby we have this laboratory over here. That's going to be interesting later. There's this anthill, which we want to avoid, or at least right now. This hospital that may have some interesting things. That might be useful for installing bionics. This small settlement up here, and a distillery where we might be able to get something for distilling salt water into clean water or something like that. And up here it looks like there's some marshes and rivers. That sounds like it could be useful as well. It looks like today is just going to be a normal day, at least for right now. Look at this. We have a shooting gallery. Perfect. I think that trained our marksmanship and archery a lot as well. Oh, look, a backpack. There. Looks like it would be a good replacement for this backpack that is now severely damaged. There. Oh yes, there's this here. That's another thing we can quickly deal with. There's a lot of things that are not becoming, or becoming not challenges anymore, it would seem. Except this thing over here is still here. That's not very good. We're running out of arrows as well. Actually, I just had a thought. Leveling, tailoring, and survival, we should be able to make a good quiver to hold the arrows so that they don't take up so much space. Specifically out of birch bark. I think the ant just killed these two zombies for me. If we take a look here, we will notice that there's a lot of items we're wearing that are conflicting, and I only just recently noticed. Now about this wooden arrow shortage, first of all. I would like to disassemble some things for their thread. The rags are a bad decision because they take a long time to do that with. Or perhaps... No. I can't make threads out of cotton balls yet. In that case, this should be one of the best options, unfortunately. There. That should be enough replacement arrows for now. I had an idea. One thing we should do quickly is smash all of the furniture in this building. Look at all of this. Just a pile of raw resources. Oh, what is this? I never noticed this here before. Very strange. Oh yes, tailoring is one thing we want to level. It has some overpowered things in it that we can use. And now that we have tailoring level 1, we can make things that require tailoring level 1. I like these arm warmers, but we want to look for something specifically very cheap to make, like these glove liners here. There, and now tailoring level 2. Which means that now we can make the balaclava a very good item to wear. As you can see, it has high warmth, high coverage, and some minor protection, and the encumbrance barely matters at all. And now that we have tailoring level 3, we can make all of these things. Even this straw fedora. Oh, and this quiver, more importantly. But this can only hold 20 arrows. What we want is the one that can hold, I think, 60 arrows, which is the large birch bark quiver. Trying to think of what would be the best way to get to that. And I think that our options for forcing the leveling are narrowing right now, and taking much more expensive resources to do. It looks like it's hard to get more long string, so this is not an option. Birch bark should be much easier to get a hold of. So we should just make a dozen birch bark quivers. The sun is going down, so we would need to light a fire in order to keep doing that. But how much birch bark do we have? 16. That's not enough to go very far. How much does this recipe require again? 3 each. It takes about half an hour to make each of them. So we're going to light a fire in order to mostly have light to craft by, but also to appease our pyromaniac, as you can see here. Yes. So that helped also. What else would help? Alcoholic beverage, I'm sure. Do we have anything like that in here? Here's something. And so that should help even more, as you can see. And that should raise focus intensely, which should also in turn help with learning and crafting. Looking at what fuel we have left. Not getting an accurate measurement immediately. I think that's tied to survival skill. We can level survival skill later though. We're focusing on this right now, because this is more important. And so now tailoring is at 50% of the way to 4. Eventually, we can become so overpowered we can make things like backpacks. I can just go ahead and put on this balaclava, and that doesn't even really hinder us at all in terms of encumbrance. The only reason I don't put on 2 at the same time is because that would overheat our head. So now in order to keep going we need to go get more bark. At this time of night that should be pretty simple. Oh, look at what we have here. A soldier ant that's moderately injured. But fortunately my evasive maneuvers have rendered it completely not a threat anymore. Yeah, we don't want to make enemies of the ants. Yeah, they're even more dangerous now that they're huge. Yeah, before it was just at picnics and when you spilled food that they were a big problem, but now it's all the time. While I'm out here, I might as well get some pine bows. And it looks like we're full. Finally. We should have enough birch barks for exactly 13 more craftings. Which should actually be more than enough. That giant ant is more of an irritation than anything else. It can't even break in, it's just going to sit out there, wondering where we went. I'm going to take a break to take a bite out of this corn dog here. Yeah, I'm eating breakfast while recording, so what of it? And so now I can just craft this on repeat until we run out of fire. Or until we level up, hopefully. There. And now we can just throw away all of this trash and craft what we really wanted. Where is it in here? Do I need a recipe for it? Because that would be unfavorable. It looks like I do need either a recipe for it or more skill in probably survival. So it looks like we're going to be leveling survival now. I wasn't expecting this to be a problem, especially not at a time like this. So I think I'll just make a dozen digging sticks or something like that. Hopefully there's something easier to make in here. Apparently not. So, right, what about weapons? Actually, there's an easier way to do this. So here it all is. We can either make spray cane flamethrowers, which we can probably make one of until we run out, or digging stick, which is the only viable option. So I know what I'm doing. There, that was fast. Strangely fast. Oh, I just drank the unclean water again, didn't I? Shouldn't that be labeled red instead of blue like it is? Or gray? The regular water is here. No. Where did it go this time? That's another thing, it tends to migrate. Here it is. The only way you can tell it's not clean is by looking very closely at the text and reading, which I don't want to do. I want to know at a glance. This should be marked red so that I know that it's not clean. Or I could put it in a different pile, but that would be harder to deal with, and inexcusably inconvenient. So now what can we craft with the survival skill? Finally the large birchbark quiver like we wanted in the first place. We could make lye in order to level up even further, or stone pot, or campfire drill. Actually, where's the normal fire drill? It should be in here somewhere. Yeah, here it is, it's just missing something. I'm going to favorite that anyway. And this, just to keep track of it. See, the high tailoring skill compounded with the archery and survival skills can allow us to make the large birchbark quiver. There. Now I can just put this on, or reload it with the ammunition, and that saved a lot of volume. And as well as putting all of the arrows in the same place where we can find them easily. And we should also be able to make another pack of 10 wooden arrows in order to fill it up. There. And now I can just reload it again. And that looks much better. And I'm pretty sure when we pick up the arrows, they'll just automatically go back in the quiver where they belong, which is perfect. But on the topic of, oh wait, what was I going to talk about? Well, whatever it was, it must not have been very important. Oh, I think it was tailoring still. So it appears that the only two things that can level tailoring now are these. So options have restricted even further, and the large birchbark quiver is, ironically, the best option right now for leveling. But I think the tailoring level we have right now is good enough for now. We will want to level fabrication and mechanics and electronics, though. Also, what time? It appears to still be 2 hours from dawn, so going to sleep should be an option. So that will heal and remove tired. So there, we're ready to go back out again. Actually, what armor piercing level do these arrows have? I'm not going to bother looking that up right now. And so mechanics is going to be useful for deconstructing these vehicles into their components, and eventually we can reconstruct them into a better vehicle later, but that requires special tools that we need to either scavenge or make using smithy, and blacksmithing in this game is not simple. Oh, look at that. An absolute nightmare. But fortunately, with our current equipment, it should be much easier to deal with anyway. Now look at this. And not even a challenge anymore. I remember that when they used to be. But that's not to say that there isn't any challenge. One of my best characters just today died because they set off a shotgun trap in a house, and they died instantly, and I wasn't able to anticipate it, so that character was the one I had all of the best things on, so well, at least now I have room in that world for a better character still. And that's another thing. Every time you die, you learn another thing not to do, and so the next character lives slightly longer. This forge should actually be much simpler to deal with, except for that skeleton over there. That would require something like the makeshift crowbar to be used, because I don't think we have enough armor piercing for that yet. Just a quick test here. If it reflects off, even on a good hit, that means we're definitely going to need to do melee with this one. I already regret doing this. Well, at least we don't need to worry about that anymore. I don't think there's anything more dangerous for an early ranged character than something like a skeleton or a feral hunter. So, this is when I just retreat because I don't want to deal with the second skeleton right now. It would seem that we should start targeting better places to loot because we're not getting very good equipment right now. I never use those improvised lockpicks. One thought actually would be to make a melee weapon for when we do see skeletons like that. Something like this. I'm not sure how useful something this unwieldy would be though. The 2x sword. The last time I tried to use a 2x sword, that character died. The cutting weapons are hard to do because their components are very expensive. The ranged weapons are even cheaper. The piercing weapons have some advantages, but the bashing weapons are still my favorite. I feel like this is the best option, although it's very expensive on long strings. On secondary consideration, this 2x sword is probably one of the best options. I've heard good things about the cudgel, but it's just not what I prefer. Actually, let's take a closer look at what it does specifically. This is just the same information as the information up there. In that case, we'll just have this after we open the blinds because it's not dark craftable. Wait. It's 5 cups of volume. This is 8 cups of volume. I'm just now realizing that all of these are bad options because of how much volume they take up. I think I'll just not have one. That was a lot of consideration for something that you just go back on. Let's see if we can target something specific this time. The electronics store. I think that's what we were getting close to already. I think we were here before we got stopped, so it's not too much further than that. And also, we have lost enough arrows now to want to replace them. there. Anytime it drops below 51 to 50, that's when we can reload with 10 more. And so that's how you optimize it. I think most of this early part is just going to be grinding, which is somewhat disappointing. That doesn't make for very good content, or at least I don't think it does. Wait, what was that? Oh, that's just the ant. That's a place down there that we're not going to go. I think we should go over to the right further before going down to the electronics store where we want to be. Shotgun rounds, that would be useful if... actually, I think we do have a shotgun, so that actually is kind of useful. But only 20 shots isn't very much. And now about this skeleton problem we're having. I had a thought that it might be fun to try to train unarmed combat, because eventually that can lead to something like martial arts, which is pretty overpowered in a lot of cases. But earlier on, that would be a great way to just to get hurt, as the skill actually describes. Upon closer inspection, I'm noticing that I can't actually find blunt weapons in this list for some reason. Oh, here it is. That's weird, why aren't we leveling that? Oh, where's cutting weapons then? Yeah, here, and here's piercing weapons. They're all at 0. Now, why is that? You see, this is one of the reasons why I really hate getting into melee encounters. Where is it? A lot of our clothes is getting destroyed, and we're taking damage, and there's also the potential for getting infected, which would be a terrible thing to have happen at this time. In fact, if we do get infected, we would practically just need to sprint all the way up to this hospital and hope there's antibiotics. Actually, I think if it starts off as a bite, then the antiseptic we already have should be good enough. I don't remember if I've ever been in this house before. It doesn't look like I have. Actually, I'm pretty sure I have. These doors are all open, except for this one. I like to collect the watches because they're small, but they can also be disassembled into good components. Oh, this looks like it might be a survivor's house. Either that or it was like this before the apocalypse, which is even more suspicious. So here's the electronics store that I can't remember if I've actually been here before. Ow. I wasn't expecting that. Well, at least it's a good way to level dodging. That Shrieker is going to be a problem as well. Oh, Bone Dog. That's even worse. That means we need to quickly sprint through the store and then see if we can escape home. We should be mildly safe as long as we stay somewhere in here. At least for a while. Fortunately, we're only leaving behind a few arrows. Overall, pretty successful, even with the problems that there were.